Hosea chapter 5, and verse number 10. Basa na to 10 nga to sa verse 13. Hosea chapter 5. Hosea chapter 5, verse 10. Kung nana, say amen? Amen. Ano maningdog paliw? Magbasa plong sa Diyos. Bring that straight up here, boy. Bring it straight up here. And just give mommy the change. Give mama the just a second. Give her the change. Hosea chapter 5 and verse 10. I'll take a sip of this in a minute. Hosea chapter 5, verse 10. The princes of Judah were like them that remove the bound. What is bound? Do not look at the Messiah. What does bound mean? Remove the bound. Mohon. Boundary is more common today. The princes of Judah were like them that remove the bound. Therefore, I will pour out my wrath upon them like water. Ephraim is oppressed and broken in judgment because he willingly walked after the commandment. That used to really confuse me. Buot siya, naglakaw siya nga kabuton, naglakaw, subay sa kasuguan, and he's broken. I don't understand that. I do now. I'll explain it later. Therefore will I be unto Ephraim as a moth, and to the house of Judah as rottenness. When Ephraim saw his sickness, and Judah saw his wound, then went Ephraim to Assyria and sent to King Jareb, yet could he not heal you, nor cure you of your wound. Basaya, ang mga prinsipe sa Judah, sama kanila nga nagkuha sa mohon. Busa ako mububok sa akong kapumot, nangha kanila sama sa tubig. Si Ephraim, gidaog-daog o gidukbok diha sa paghukom, tungod kay siya sa kinabubuton milakaw sunod sa sugo. Kung siya milakaw sunod sa sugo, nga naman gidukbok. We'll explain that in a few minutes. Busa ako mahimong ato sa Ephraim, ingon sa uska anunugba, ug sa balay sa Judah, ingon sa pagkadunot. Sa dihat nga ang Ephraim nakakita sa iyang sakit, ug ang Judah nakakita sa iyang samad. Unya miato ang Ephraim ngadto sa Assyrianhon, ug mipadalat ngadto ni Haring Jareb, apan siya dili makaayo kaninyo, ni makatambal kaninyo sa inyong samad. Title of my message this afternoon, quite simple, the necessity of boundaries. Something ang pulong necessity, ikinahanglan yun. So ang panginahanglan sa mga mohon, mga utlanan. Something ang pulong utlanan, meaning the boundary, kung naay akong lote diri o imong lote diha, naay utlanan tunga sa atong duha ka lote, di ba? Naay mohon diha sa corner, diha sa, what is that? Is that a skina or what's ang pulong sa corner? Is that a skina? No. Is it a skina? In the corner, na ang imong mohon diya sa skina, dayon na linya, kanang utlanan, pahingo sa sunod mohon, di ba? Ang panginahanglan, or the necessity of boundaries, mga utlanan, mga mohon. Magapon ta, dayon kamo makalingkod, para sa mensahe karong hapon. Dear Father, thank you for your goodness to us. Thank you for your blessings on our church. Now, God, would you fill me with your spirit right now? Would you help us, dear God? Would you help our church? Help us to be a church that stands for boundaries, limitations, restrictions, restraint, self-control. Please, dear God, fill me with your spirit as I preach. Empower me. Put your hand on the message, God. We need you. Pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Pwede mo maglingkod. I'm going to take a couple swallows. Property markers. Mga mohon. They're very important in our world. Maka-imagine ba ka kung magkinabuhit ka sa kalibutan nga wala mohon? Wala kang kabalo sa ang kinatumyan sa imong lote, wala kagamalo kanon sa mag-stop imong property, kanon sa mag-start ang property sa uban. Mag-imagine ba kaniyana? If we live in a world without any boundaries, how would you know where your property is and where your neighbor's property is? Mag-imagine ba kaniyana? What kind of a world would that give us? Kung wala yung mohon, what would be the result? Well, number one, everyone would do what they thought was right with their property. Wag ko sure sa akong property, mura kini akong lote, magtukod sa akong balay na rin. Dahil ang CDM silingan, dali mo na! Diba? So first, do it. Ang resulta, ang tanan tao maghimo, sumala sa ilang hunahuna, whatever they think is right. Like it says in the book of Judges, every man did that which was right in his own eyes. That's what would happen kung wala mohon. Mura kini akong property. I'll cut the tree down and use it for my house. So the first result would be everyone would do what they think is right. The second result would be there would be constant fighting all the time. Makiglalis, makigubat. Mga silingan, magaway, magpatay. It would be awful. Sige, there's kanunay na mga kaso kabahin sa udlanan. Nga naman, wala ay mohon. Mohons are important. Very, very important. So if we had no mohons, the first result would be everyone would do what's right in their own eyes. Secondly, we'd have fighting. And then thirdly, it would create a world where the wicked man can do whatever he wants as long as he is stronger than his neighbor. Ang daotang tao makahimo bisan unta nga yang gitinguha basta lang mas kuskan siya kaysa yang silingan. Makakawat ko sa imong lote nga naman mas kusog ko kay kanimo. Nakoy mas daghang trabahante kay kanimo. So ako mukawa sa imong lote. Can you imagine a world na walay utlanan, walay mohon, o wala ta kabalo sa akong lote sa akong silingan? It'd be a crazy world. Everyone knows that when we're talking about property, ang mga lote, ang yuta, importante yun ang mga boundaries. Udlanan, mohon na makita sa tanan, kini ang akong property, kanang imong property. Importante kayo. Yet, we live in a world that believes that boundaries are no longer needed in the area of morality. Nasa tayo pulong morality, right and wrong. Matarong o sayo. Matarong o ang limpyo, hinlo o dili hinlo. Hugaw. We live in a world that says, yes, of course, kinalata sa mga utlanan, kinalata sa mga mohon, diya sa itong lote. Pero diha sa morality, or sa basay, moralidad, dali na kinahanglan ng mga mohon. That's what the world believes today. In our text verse, Hosea chapter 5, verse 10, look at it with me if you would. Hosea chapter 5, verse 10. Hosea chapter 5, verse 10. Kung nana, say amen. The princes of Judah were like them that remove the bound. Therefore will I pour out my wrath upon them like water. Ang mga prinsipe sa Judah, sama kanila nga nagkuha sa mohon. God says the princes of Judah are like them. So, ang Diyos naggamit sa panaglitan. He said, ang mga prinsipe, ang mga pangulo sa Judah, Judah is the southern kingdom, and Ephraim, he calls Ephraim, that's the northern kingdom, that's Israel. Usahay, especially sa Hosea. Pero usahay sa Old Testament, sa mga prophets, ang Diyos naggamit sa angga, Ephraim, pero nagasturi siya kabayan sa northern kingdom, sa 10 tribes. I don't know why, but God often calls Israel, the northern kingdom, He calls them Ephraim. And in Hosea, kanang pinaka-common sa Isaiah, sa Hosea. But he's talking about Judah, and then later he talks about Ephraim. But he says their leaders are like a dishonest farmer. Kung naay matikason nga farmer, buhat siya dito sa utlanan, kukuha sa iyang pala, magkalo, is that the word? Magkalo siya, kuha, ibot sa mohon. Is that the right word? Ibot siya sa mohon, and he'll take it and he'll move it. What did he just do? Nagkawat siya sa property sa iyang silingan. Diba? Or just mukuha and just nawala yun. Take it, throw it away. Oh, walay klaro. Wala kakuha ni. Not kuha is the word used here. Just take it out. Wala na mohon. So God says, your leaders, the princes, they're like a person who removes the mohon, but they're doing it spiritually. They're saying, we don't need all these rules. Dali ba kinala sa balaod ni Moses? Dali importante ang mga boundaries of righteousness. We can do what we want. Is that not what the world is doing today? Let's talk about the transgender movement. What is the transgender movement? The world is trying to remove the boundary between men and women. O daghang batanong nalibog yun tungod niya. Daghang, basin babae, basin akong lawas sa lalaki, pero basin sa sulod babae man ko tungod sa mga buwang na ganahan magkuha sa mohon. You listen very carefully. If you have a male body, you are a man. If you have a female body, you are a female. Ang imong pagbati, dili mag-change bisan unsa. But our world has gone so crazy, they now say, if you call yourself a woman, you are. I'm not kidding you. Wala joke. Nay babae dito sa US. Let me see here. Nakoy ngalan niya. Yung ngalan si Amy Arambide or Arambide. I don't know the proper pronunciation. I didn't hear it. I just read. Amy Arambide or Arambide. I'm not sure. She's an OB-GYN doctor. Does something know OB-GYN? Doctor para sa mga babae, sa tanan, inner organs of females, pregnancy, and everything that's related to females' health. She's an OB-GYN doctor, but she is also an abortion activist. She fights to get people permission to murder their babies. That is her purpose in life. Makibisog siya ron na ang mga babae na ipatungod na mupatay sa ilang mga anak sa walang panatawa ang anak. That's her purpose in life. How would you like to have that life? How would you like to stand before Jesus after spending your life helping people murder their babies? She's a wicked woman. But this woman was called to testify before a U.S. Senate. Something yung Senate, not only Senate, but it's the Pilipinas, di ba? The U.S. Senate, there are 2 representatives from each state, so 100 senators. Dili daghang yun, 100 lang senators. Like 400 kaping House representatives, pero 100 lang ang mga senators. This is a really big thing. Gitawag siya, o kinahanglan siya motubag sa mga pumatana sa U.S. Senate, one of the U.S. Senate committees. There's a man there, he's a U.S. Senator, his name is Dan Bishop. Wakong kabalo sa ang iyang state. But Dan Bishop was asking her questions. And then he asked this question. I'm not kidding. I copied and pasted the question and the answer. Are you ready? Do you believe that men can become pregnant and have abortions? Her answer, yes. What? Do you know what that is? The world has removed the bound, the separation between men and women. Are you listening? Gikuha na nila. And listen, and anybody who believes it is a total fool. Oh, we believe in science. Okay, so your science is, I am what I feel like I am. That's not science, that's stupid. My feelings, so according to your science, feelings are the foundation of all knowledge. If I feel like a woman, I am a woman. What? And therefore, pwede ko maburos o manak. And don't you tell me I can't. Wow! That is the battle we're fighting in the world today. And here's the amazing thing. 50 years ago, Dr. Jack Hiles preached a sermon called the Unisex Movement. You understand una? Pila ka wheels say unicycle. Pila ka wheels? 1. Unicycle. Cycle means libot-libot. Bicycle. 2 wheels. Like libot-libot. Bicycle. Tricycle. 3. So una means 1. Unisex means the world is trying to make us all like we're all the same. Magkuha sa mahon, magkuha sa kalina, magsulti ang lalaki babae parehong manggod. 50 years ago, nagwali siya niya, and people said he's crazy. And now in 2022, a woman, a doctor, sat in front of the U.S. Senate and said, men can get pregnant and have babies. They have successfully removed the mohon in the culture of America. This world is always trying to take away the boundaries between right and wrong, between things that God says are different. Kini ang kalibutan, nagsulay, mo tangtang, mo erase. What's erase? Papas? Mo papas sa mga udlanan. The boundaries, mo tangtang, mo ibot sa mga mohon. They've been trying to remove the mohons, marking the line between righteousness and wickedness, between God's land and the devil's land. And they're saying, we don't need these markers anymore. Everything's the same. Walay kalihinan sa kadautan o pagkamatarong, because no, it just depends on what you think. The world's gone crazy. But they've been doing this for years. Rock and roll music, listen to me, is all about one thing. Remove all boundaries. Tangtangin ang tanan udlanan sa pagkamatao. Just give, we don't have to follow any rules. That's what rock music is. That's what rock music is. It's a very popular song. A few years ago when we were in Dumaguete, I heard some kids singing it from a very popular Disney movie. But the words are so perfect to describe the idea of removing boundaries. Do you know what the song's? Well, you don't know. You know the song. I Hate It. It's from the devil. They call it Let It Go. It's from the Frozen movie, which my kids will never watch, by the way. Not as long as they live in my house anyway. It's a dirty movie. Say it's a cartoon. It's dirty. Hugaman. But the song Let It Go, here's one of the lines. Are you ready? No right, no wrong, no rules for me. Walay sakto, walay sayop, walay rules alang kanako. It goes back to the rock and roll culture, which says, if it feels good, do it. There's no such thing as right and wrong. The world has been trying to remove the boundaries for years. So the Beatles, that was a rock and roll group. Naggikan sila sa England, niato sa the United States sa 1960s, sometime in the 1960s. They brought rock and roll music to America, and they changed the culture, and they began what we call the hippie culture. And the whole theme of the hippie culture was, we don't follow rules for anybody. The men all the men grew their hair real long. And the women started dressing like men. And they called it free love, meaning, dili ka na magkasal, just pwede ka magdulog kaniya karon ugma ang lain. Free love. Drugs, alcohol. The hippie movement, where did it start? Rock and roll music, because rock and roll music is about one thing: remove the boundaries. Truth Baptist Church, listen to your pastor tonight. God still believes in boundaries in 2022. And God still believes in marking where the boundary is. Kinahanglan ta magkabulo asang udlanan sa pagkamatarong o kinahanglan ta magbutang sa mohon na klaro yun ang tanang tao kabalo. Where's the line? This is right, this is wrong. The world says, here, let's just take that away. There's no right and there's no wrong. They remove the mohon. They remove the boundary. But rock and roll music that created the wicked 60s and 70s hippie culture is now accepted in thousands of so-called Christian churches all over the world. The same music that created the long-haired men, earrings, and the immodest women, and the sex, and the filthy, wicked, free love, and the free sex, all of that stuff came from the music, and now they play that same music in their churches. Why? Because a lot of Christians have allowed the world to remove the boundary. Wala na mohon. I just want to say tonight, boundaries, listen to me, rules, restrictions, rules about appearance, rules about things we do and we don't do, boundaries are good. Boundaries, ang mga mohon na mupakita sa kaliinan sa matarong o kadautan, mayroon yun para nato o para sa atong mga anak. We still need boundaries in 2022. We still need lines that we say, Delita maglapas ni Ana. We say over here, this is right, that's wrong. We need boundaries. The reason children are destroying their lives is because parents don't give them boundaries. Ang ginikanan, dali magbabang, huwag mga ulan, huwag mga fence, huwag mga mohon na magpakita, unsang mayo, huwag unsang sayo. Hey, listen, in 2022, we need boundaries. Or our children are going to be destroyed by the confusion and the sin of this world. Look at me, if you would, again, Hosea chapter 5, verse 10. I want to show you the results of when we allow the boundaries to be removed. Kung kita mo tugod nga kuhako ng mga mohon sa atong gawin. Listen, we can't control the world, but we don't have to allow them to remove the boundaries in our homes and in our church. Dili ko makakontrol sa daotang buwang dito sa U.S. Senate na yung ang mga lalaki pwede maburos. I can't control her. I don't want to get close to her. Help us. I can't control them. But I can make sure my children know where the boundaries are. Kids, this is right, that is wrong. I can make sure our church knows where the boundaries are. Matarong, dili matarong. Hinlo, hukah. Look at me, Hosea chapter 5, verse 10. The princes of Judah were like them that removed the bound. Wala na boundary, wala na rules. Pwede ka maghimo, bisa mo sa ganahan ka. If it feels good, do it. Therefore, I will pour out my wrath upon them like water. Ang mga prinsipe sa Judah, sama kanila nga nagkuha sa mahon, busa ako mabubo sa akong kapungon nga na kanila sama sa tubig. God says very clearly, I'm going to judge those wicked people that are trying to remove the boundaries. That crazy woman, she's going to face Jesus one day. Manuba, cute siya, puhan. And as we say in English, I wouldn't want to be in her shoes. Something you can expression. Do you have a sign expression like that? I wouldn't want to be in your shoes. Dili ko ganan magpulit nimo diha sa atubangan ni Jesus Kristo. I wouldn't want to be in your shoes. Look at verse 11. Ephraim is oppressed and broken in judgment because he willingly walked after the commandment. Now that sounds very confusing. See, Ephraim, gidaog-daog. Now that's the northern kingdom. Si Ephraim, gidaog-daog, gidukmok, diya sa paghukom, tungod kay siya sa kinabubuton, milakaw sunod sa sugo. So in verse 10, God says the leaders are saying, we don't need rules. We can just do what we feel like. You know, a lot of church leaders are saying that kind of nonsense today. Say, oh, it doesn't matter how you dress. Ang importante ang imong pamisti. Basta lang sektor mong kasing-kasing. You ever heard that one? It doesn't matter if you sleep with your girlfriend as long as you really love each other. You ever heard that nonsense? Basta lang na igugma, okay naman kung magtulog niya. It's okay, you love each other. Right? There are Christian leaders that teach that garbage. They're removing the bounds. And God says, I'm going to judge them. And I'll say this. I believe God is more angry at the pastors who teach that stuff than the government leaders that do it. Because read what God says about his shepherds. Oh, God gets angry when the shepherds don't take care of the sheep. But we have the leader saying, we don't need rules. Then we get to verse 11. Ephraim is oppressed and broken. What is the word there? Dugmok. What is dugmok? Is that shattered? What does dugmok mean? Give me an illustration. Like a thing that can be dugmok. Ang glass madugmok. So it's kind of like shattered. Dagmong pieces. Okay, so it's kind of like shattered in English. Okay. If you say a nation is broken, it's shattered, is that a healthy culture? No, it's a broken culture. Can we safely say that the Piton is a very broken culture? There are more broken homes than not broken. Daghang tao mag-ipon, walay kasal, pon-pon, may bulag sila. Daghang, everywhere you go, you meet ladies, 2 or 3 kids, walay bana. The culture's broken. And it was the same way in Ephraim. Why? Because they willingly walked after the commandment. What commandment? Not God's commandment. The commandment of the leaders who are saying, we don't need boundaries. Are you following me? They willingly walked after the commandment. It's talking about verse 10 where they said, they're like them that remove the bound. Sama kanila nga nagkuha sa muhon. And then these followers, the people in the culture said, oh, that's nice. We can do what we want. And they followed. And unsang resulta? Nadawat ang culture. Nadawat ang culture. Ephraim is broken. Look at verse 12. Not only is the culture being destroyed, but God says He's going to make it worse. Therefore will I be unto Ephraim as a moth, and to the house of Judah as rottenness. Busa ako mahimo nga to sa Ephraim, ingon sa uska anunog ba? Nasab niyo anunog ba? Anybody know what a moth is? Moths are known for eating holes in your clothes, right, Ben? Something kabalo mo niana, na mo niana today. It's kind of like a butterfly, but it gets in your clothes. Mohimo mga buslot. Buslot sa mong saninas. And then he says, Og sabalay sa Judah, ingon sa pagkadunod. God is saying, yes, your culture's in trouble, and I'm going to judge it and make it worse. Ako maghukom niya sa inyong culture. God says, listen to me very carefully. God promises His judgment on a culture that is immoral. Kung ang tibo culture mahimong walay restraints, walay boundaries, walay utlanan, walay mohon. When a culture reaches that point, God says, I'm going to judge it. It's only a question of when, not if. Look at verse 13. And now verse 13. When Ephraim saw his sickness, and Judah saw his wound, then went Ephraim to the Assyrian and sent to King Jerob. Yet could he not heal you, nor cure you of your wound. Sabi ng Ephraim, nakakita sa iyang sakit. Stop. Nga naman nagsakit sila. Because they're following the commandments of the people who say, no rules. Diba? So nga naman na problema. Tungkol sa iyang makot mga decision. Kinamuras nag-anto sila. Okay? When Judah saw his sickness, and Ephraim saw his sickness, that's the northern kingdom, and Judah, the southern kingdom, saw his wound. Then went Ephraim to the Assyrian and sent to King Jerob. Who are the Assyrians? Ang mga kaaway sa Diyos. Niining panahon na, wala pang mga Assyrianhon nagatake sa Israel. Kauban pa sila. What is the word for that? Tig-abig? What is the word? Tig-abig, meaning they are, what's it called, Ruth? Kauban in war, but they're allies. Mga allies sila. At that time, Israel was trying to make an alliance with Assyria. So they saw, nakikita sila na na-doubt ang ilang culture, na-doubt ang problema, tungkol sa ilang makot decision. Pero kung sa ilang igibuha, nibalik ba sila sa Diyos? Oh, Ginoo, nasayog na yung palayog, tabangin ni. Here, we'll put the line back in, we'll do right, dalik na may maglapas. Is that what they did? No. They went further from God and tried to get help from the wicked world. The Assyrians, the wicked, evil Assyrians, who would one day come and destroy the entire northern kingdom of Israel. But what does it say? Yet could he not heal you, nor cure you of your wound. Apan siya, dili makaayo kaninyo, ni makatambal kaninyo sa inyong samad. Can I tell you, listen to me? This world has no solutions for the problems that their sins have created. It's just gonna keep getting worse. Kini nga kalibutan, walay kasalbaran sa mga problema nga ma-resolve sa ilang maot ng decision. When they remove the boundary and God judges and the culture begins to collapse. Listen to me. DSWD is not going to fix all the problems in the Philippines. don't have the answer. Now, I'm not against DSWD. Some of the things they do are good. Some of it's necessary. I was talking to the lady here. She works at that children's shelter in Polanco. Mga rape victims. Most of them gi-rape sa ilang kaugalingong amahan. Boys and girls from 8 years old to 17. She said we've had some 6 and 7 years old. Now, I think that's good what they're doing to try to help those children, but the truth is they don't have the answer. They're trying to help the kids, but she told me many of the kids have tried to commit suicide. You know why? DSWD can't help those kids heal from their inner wounds. Only God can do that. This world does not have a solution to their problems. We do. And the solution, you listen to me today, the solution to the mess. You understand what I mean by mess? What is that? Messiah. Ang kadaot. Ang result ng kadaot. Sa kadaot na kalibutan. You listen to me. The solution is not for us to get closer to the world. The solution is for us to put the mohon back and say, this is right and this is wrong. Stay over here and you'll be on God's side. Kung galang ka sa kalipay, kung galang ka sa kinuwinga, panalanginan sa Diyos, ipabilin dali sa side sa Diyos. We need some preachers and some men of God and some Christians and some parents who will put the mohon back that the world is trying to remove. We need to stop letting the world remove the boundaries. In our homes, in our churches. The only way to solve the problems of our world is to get back inside the boundaries of the Word of God. Sa niyo ka na, magpasalud, magbalik pasalud sa mga utlanan sa pulong sa Diyos. That's where we'll find solutions for the world's trouble that we're facing. The broken homes, the crazy, out-of-control children, the criminals. She told me, si Ma'am Clyde today, nagyon ako sa garhapon sa, she said, atbang sa ilang children's shelter, she said, across the way, atbang sa iyang lugar, is the juvenile detention center. Prisohan para sa mga batanon. Kung criminal na sila, 17 paubos, dili sila mo ato sa jail sa Daco, mapriso sila dito sa Polanco. And here's what she said to me. She said, I said, basin ako magkato dito po. She said, basin, pero mas importante ang amo ha. Or something like that. I mean, maybe those weren't exact words, but that was what she was saying. She said, kaya depressed cute sila. And I'm thinking, ang mga daw, ang na-depressed po. That's the reason they do stupid things. I just want to say today, here at Truth Baptist Church, we still believe in boundaries. Naapay mohon. Gipahimutang sa pulong sa Diyos, and it needs to stay where God put it. We don't need to move it. We don't need to discuss it. Maybe it's okay for us to change some of our rules. We'll move it a little bit that way. Keep it right where God put it. Right is right. Wrong is wrong. We don't need to change. Allow me to give you a very simple illustration to help us understand this truth tonight about mohons and about spiritual boundaries. I know what I need. Brother Michael, can you go get me some mugs? I don't care if they're clean. Give me 2 mugs. Kung hugaw, wala problema. Just bring them up here. The mugs are going to be my mohon this evening. I should have thought of that before. Sir? Sige. Ganun ko nga ikaw mag-imagine na sa umaabot, makapalit ka sa dakong lote. Ug luyok sa balay, diya sa mong lote na dakong Kung can I use word uma? Or not really uma, that's for planting. What do you guys call a field now? Sagbot lang. Really uma? Huh? I got it, hold on. It's a form of, in English it's the plains. It means flat place. What is it called? Kapatagan? Kapatagan. So luyo sa iyong balay, patag yun. So you buy the property, o ang engineer or whatever, I think it's an engineer, comes and magsukot siya, di ba? Kung magsukot siya, magputang siya sa mga mohon dire. Tinood ba? Ang imong property dire, ang lote sa imong silingan na dire. Panagliktan, ang imong silingan na ay 6 dakong iro. Maghakot siya sa tanan, hakot, di ba? Hakot, chain. Hukot, sorry. What is hakot? Hakot is to carry, right? Maghukot siya sa tanan, pero duo-duo sila sa udlanan, sa yuta. Kung magstay mo sulod sa imong lote, okay man ka. Kung imong mga anak magstay dire, okay naman. Pero kung maglapa sa udlanan, if they cross over the line, basin ng mga iro, makakuha kanila. Vicious guy ng mga iro. What is that? Mapintas. Mapintas too. There's another word. Pangis. So if you have children, panagliktan na kay mga anak, unsay mong buhaton? Kung magbalhin na mo na ninyo sa inyong bagong balay, unsang unang buhaton nimo? Maglakaw dito sa luyo, magtudlo ka. Kana ang udlanan, kana ang kinatumyan sa among property. Dito sa Pecas na itagong iro na magpagtagyod ka nimo, takok yun. Basta lang magstay ka dali, okay na ta. Kung di ka din na ang mga iro, di sila makahikap nimo. Pero ayaw maglapas sa linya, sa utlanan. You'd show your children where the mohon is so they would know where it's safe to play. You know ba? Dili ba kanang imong buhaton kung kanamay ka o kanimo? I want you to imagine, nakay ang imong silingan, uska lang, magdul kanimo, siya musulti nimo. I think we get along really well. I mean, mayo ang atong relasyon, magsinaptanay ni, magsinaptanay ta. Kana, magsinaptanay jitan. I was just thinking, you know, I really don't think the mohons are necessary. I feel like they create division. You know, you understand division? What is division? Pagbahin-bahin, right? I feel like it makes kind of I feel like it just separates us in our relationship. So I was just thinking, why not just remove the mohons? Are you going to let him remove the mohons? Ikaw mo tugot na siya makuha sa mga mohon? Nga naman, tungkol ang mohon, ang butang na mag-protect sa imong mga anak. Tinood ba? Kung wala na mohon, ang imong mga anak wala kabalo, asang lugar na safe, o asang lugar na delikado. Tinood ba? You would never let him remove the mohon. Kahit delikado pa sa imong mga anak. But over the last several decades, are you listening? Many churches have done exactly that with the world. They've allowed the world to remove the mohon in their own property. I'm talking about churches and their music. Many churches have accepted the devil's lie that all music is okay, o bisan unsang klase sa music pwede gamiton sa pagdayeg sa Ginoo, and they have removed the mohon in the area of music, and their children are now playing in the devil's yard with the devil's music. Are you listening? O ilang mga membro nagadula diha sa lugar sa Yawa sa iyang music. By the way, let me say something right here. Anybody who listens to worldly rock and roll music, to worldly so-called Christian music, but it's rock and roll, will eventually listen to the world's wicked rock and roll music too, because it's the same thing. Kung mag-start ka maminaw sa rock and roll Christian, pohon maminaw ka sa rock and roll na kalibutan, that's only from the world. It will pull you back into the world. Yes, it will, yes, it will, yes, it will. But many churches have allowed the world to remove the mohon. You listen to me very carefully. There is righteous music and unrighteous music. Now in music, nga matarong ug naay music nga dili matarong. Naay music nga hinlo magadayeg sa Ginoo, naay laing music nga hugaw magadayeg sa yawa. And Christian young people all over the world are being destroyed by the devil's music because churches have allowed the world to remove the mohon. Are you listening? Somebody needs to put the marker down and say, right here, godly, ungodly. Diyos nun, di Diyos nun. Hinlo, huka. Many churches have allowed the world to remove the landmark in the area of modesty and propriety in clothing and appearance. It is very hard in 2022 to find a pastor. And I'll say this, it's almost impossible to find a non-Baptist pastor. I don't know if you can. Hapit na impossible nga mokita sa pastor nga dili Baptist nga mowalit kabahin sa modesty sa mga babae. The Catholic Church tells their people, it doesn't matter how you dress as long as your heart's right. But that's the same thing Assembly says. Diba? And Alliance. How do you know? Because I watch their people come out of church. They've removed the bound of modesty and they have sold their children to immodesty, indecency, and filthiness. Not only are many pastors not preaching about modesty, they even now make excuses for not being modest. They'll say things like this, well, lahi ang culture diha sa panahon sa Biblia kaysa atong culture karon. You know what? Culture was different. But God isn't. Ang Diyos wala na change. If it was wrong for a woman to wear pants in the time of Moses, it is wrong for a woman to wear pants in the time of Pastor Mike. Amen! Why are there so many pastors who are willing to let the world remove the mohon? Not going to happen here. Pastor Mike will never have a big church. The way you preach, mga apo ka ang Diyos mo putupo sa mong simbahan, may tabo. That's God's choice, not mine, but I'm going to preach against sin. Listen now. There is righteous clothing and unrighteous clothing. There is a right way for a man to cut his hair and a wrong way for a man to cut his hair. Right and wrong. And the mohon needs to stay where it is. Many churches have removed the boundaries of purity in the boy-girl uyab relationships. It's not going to happen here. They'll say things, well, it's okay if you hug and kiss a little bit, but just, don't get pregnant. I'll tell you how to not get pregnant. Don't hug and kiss. And don't hold hands. And don't touch it all. That's where the mohon belongs. Ayaw makikapay. Saktong grammar, makikapay. You would never allow your neighbor to remove the mohon. But there is one thing that will happen. This happens in almost any time you put the mohon in the field, unsa mahitabo, motubo ang sagbot. Tinol ba? O pohon-pohon, natago naman. Nagihapon ang mohon, pero natago na. Tungod sa time, as time passes, matago ang pohon. Are you listening? Are you listening? Shh. Is that not true? When someone goes to buy a new property, they call the engineer, and he has to take out his shovel and find the mohon, because sometimes it actually gets buried. You deal with some of that stuff, don't you, Brother Nestor? Property taxes and all that. You ever seen a mohon that's just completely buried, yet they had to dig it up to find the corner. Sa among property dito, ang atong muhon, ilubong diya sa wall sa among silingan. They built the wall right around it. You can't see the muhon anymore. It's gone. I'm not sure how that works legally, but whatever. Listen to a statement I'm about to make right here. A muhon that cannot be seen is worthless. Ang muhon na dali makita, walay pulos. Kung imong mga anak, magdula-dula sa gawas, doon sa utlanan, na imong iro dito, gikatina sila, I forgot the word, gihuktan, nauktan, di ba? Gihuktan, whatever. Gihuktan sila. Kung basta lang, dali ka maglapas sa utlanan, okay naman ka. Pero kung maglapas, delikado yun. Pero kung ang sagot magtago sa imong muhon, ang muhon walay pulos, sama kung ikaw nagtuhok na nga nakuha. Tinod ba? Wala kay pulos. And that is what is happening in Baptist churches. Naay mga pastors, nagatuhok hangtod karon, kung babae mag-slacks, pants are the garments. What is the word used in the Bible? I lost it. That pertain to manhood. Sa basahang Biblia, iya sa pagkalalaki. They believe it in their heart, and the muhon is still there. But they haven't preached about it in 15 years. Og natago cute ang muhon. Are you listening to me? What would you do kung imong anak nagdula o ikaw nakita, wow, kayo siya sa mga iro, o ikaw magkaw sa balay, maglato, asang muhon? Nga naman ikaw naglapas sa muhon, asada pe. Nalubong na. What would you do? Kung ang imong polo, imong utang knife. Polo, utang tawag? Ha? Sundan, salamat. Kung ang imong sundan, kung ang imong laking gamit, huwag ka dito, and you will clear the brush away from the muhon. Aron makitaan sa tanan. Tinod ba? Isn't that what you would do? Kung ganan ka, imong mga anak, mukita sa ang muhon, asa ang utlanan, huwag ko kabalo. Alright, kinahanglan ta, mangita sa muhon, o ipakita ang muhon sa tanan. Do you know what we call that in the spiritual world? Preaching! 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 Kung pastor mo tingog mo sabi, hey, ladies, dress modestly. You know what I'm doing? I'm clearing the brush from the muhon. Aron ang tanan tao makikita klaro kayo. That's where the muhon is. Don't cross the line. I believe pastors should be clear in their preaching. Nagatuko ang mga pastor dapat magwalit ng klaro gyud aron walay tao magduwa-duwa sa pagpasabot sa ilang pagwalit. Pastors do this. Well, you ladies, try to dress modestly. Do you know what that's like? That's like saying to your kids, go have fun, play out there, just stay away from the dogs. A wise pastor walks over and says, here's the muhon right here. See it? See it? Right here. This is the muhon. Do you know why your pastor preaches so hard? I'm trying to keep the muhons real clear. Aron makita sa tanan. Aron walay duwa-duwa. I want to make sure everybody knows where the muhon is. I'm totally lost in my outline. I found it. Here we go. I want to ask a question. Kung na'y pastor, nagatuwa sa iyang kasing-kasing, nga sayo para sa babae magsuot sa short skirts or immodest clothes or pants. He believes it's wrong. He believes he still has the muhon. But he hasn't preached about it in 15 years or 10 years. He doesn't stand up and say, hey ladies, wear a skirt. Look like a Christian. I want to ask a question. Unsang pulo sa iyang muhon kung walay tao makakita sa iyang muhon? Wala. A lot of pastors, I believe today, comfort themselves while saying, well, I still believe it's wrong. But if you haven't preached on it in 10 years, it's worthless. It is a worthless landmark because nobody can see it. Tonight I want to just make it real clear. I want you to know where the boundary marker is for modesty at Truth Baptist Church. I want to say very clearly, I don't believe that a woman should ever wear pants because God says it is an abomination. That's where the mahon is. See, the problem is a lot of pastors say, well, you ladies, you shouldn't wear that which pertains to a man, but they're afraid to say pants pertain to manhood. English expression, who wears the pants in your house? Meaning, kinsang pangulo, biyasan malay. Because pants have always been connected with manhood. I don't believe a woman should ever wear pants. That's where the mahon is. And I'm going to make it real clear. I don't believe that a woman should ever wear tight clothes that reveal the shape of her body. Well, nagatoko nga walay Kristohano nga babae dapat magsuot sa mga saninas nga hugod o nga makapakita sa forma sa iyang lawas. The purpose of clothing is to hide your shape and your skin. I don't believe a woman should ever wear a skirt that reveals her knee. Kung maglingkod ka, makita mong knee, your skirt is too short. But at our church, we've gone a little further. We said, you know what? We don't really like it when the skirt's right here because it's just so close. Kung naigamay nga hangin, or naigamay or magdulat-dulat gamay, makita ang tuhod. So we said at our church, if you want to be on staff, or you want to sing in front of church, or you want to have a leadership position like Sunday school or something like that, the skirt's got to be down here. I want you to know where the mahon is. Ladies, skirts are down here. They're not up here. They're not up here. They're down here. I'll take it another step further. I don't believe a woman should wear a shirt without sleeves. It's immodest. Lots and lots of churches have dropped that standard. Na mga simbahan, sila, dili mo tugo ang babae mag-slacks. Pero mo tugo ang babae mo tindog, mo kanta, at mo tumangan sa simbahan, na walay sleeves. I don't care what anybody says. That is immodest, and it creates lust in men. So many different ways it's immodest. It's not just the fact that the shoulder. It's the fact that there's an opening there that draws men's eyes. Draw, nagtira, nagdani sa pananaw sa mga lalaki. I don't believe a woman should wear a dress that is low cut in the front or in the back. Modesty says, cover your skin. Look at me, ladies. It ought to be up here, not down here. And when you're wearing a dress, it shouldn't be down here in the back. I don't want to see your shoulder blades. And I might as well say this too. And the collar ought to be up here on their neck, and it shouldn't be it's down here. I'm not picking on anybody tonight. I'm making the mohon clear. I don't want dua. We believe in modesty, and this is what modesty is. A modest length skirt. Dili hugod. Dili mud. Dili low on front or on back or on sides. Modest. Modest. And by the way, as long as I'm talking about women being modest, I believe men should be modest too. I don't believe a Christian man should walk around his neighborhood with his shirt off. In Canada, when I was a kid, sa bata ko dito sa Canada. I was not a Canada, pero sa bata pa ko, dito sa Canada, sila naghimo sa bagong balapod. The law said anywhere that a man can go topless, meaning hubo, ikandari, and up. Any man where a man can go topless, so can a woman. You say that's wrong. Is it? Or maybe it's wrong for men to walk around with their shirts off. Why is it wrong for a woman to show her body, but okay for a man? Please explain that to me. Show me that in the Bible. Now, there is a difference. There is. Men are tempted to lust much more than women are when they see the flesh of when a man sees a woman's body, he's tempted to lust. Much more than women. But that's not the whole issue. May I remind you, sa diha ang Diyos naghatag po coat ni Eve, nakatag siya og coat ni Adam put. My kids do not see their daddy without a shirt. They don't. And the girls who live in my house don't even see me in shorts. If they do, it's an accident. And the shorts I wear cover my knees. And I only wear them for sleeping. Why? If I expect my wife to cover her knees, why should I show everybody my knees? I'm just showing you where the mahon is. I believe in modesty for men and women. And I'll say this too. Daghang pastor, nagdua-dua diri sa Pilipinas, nga naman walay silingan ako, nagrespeto nako. Pasin tumuli ka, sorry di asa mong neighborhood, flip-flop shorts o walay shirt. Kanang oras walay tao magrespeto sa pastor, pero sa kanila. That'll make friends with my friends around the area. I'm trying to clear the sagbot tonight. I'm not trying to fix a problem. I'm trying to make sure everybody knows where the boundary is so nobody gets hurt by the dogs in the devil's yard. Let me just throw one more thing out there, ladies. As long as I'm picking on everybody, let me throw out one more thing. Ladies, listen to your pastor. Be careful about your high heels. Now, I do not think high heels are immodest by themselves. But if it makes you walk like a horse, it's immodest. Kung kinahanglan ka maglakaw sama sa kabayo. Say, Pastor Mike, how does a horse walk? He bends his knees. Watch me now. My wife doesn't wear many heels. She has a little bit. But I would never let her wear a heel more than about this. Because when you start getting about here and here, it makes you bend your knees when you walk in an unnatural way. And it draws attention to your knees and your hips. Are you listening? Now, so I understand, oh, Pastor Mike, pero putot ko, ganahan ko sa heels. 2 extra inches doesn't really matter. Putot gihapon ka bisan mag-heels. Are you listening? I'm not saying if you have high heels at home, you need to throw them away. I'm not saying that. And I'll be honest, I haven't paid attention to who has heels and who doesn't. I'm just saying, if you have to walk like this, the automatic result is you have to bend your knees, which draws attention to your hips. Ladies, you don't want the men looking at your hips while you walk. Are you listening? There's a reason wicked women who are trying to sell their body, part of the costume is always high heels. Always. Because it makes you walk in a way that is not proper. You are forced to, what's the word? Magkiai. Are you listening? I'm not picking. I'm not being mean tonight. I'm trying to open your eyes. I'm showing you where the mohon is. Be careful. Be careful. When you start getting higher, you start walking like a horse. Horse, caballo. You're going to remember this illustration, aren't you? Listen. I'm trying to show you the way a man thinks. I know you want to be modest. Be careful about the height of your heels. Look at the way it makes you walk. If you're married, ask your husband. He'll tell you. Unless he's a coward. I'm trying to clear the brush tonight. Hey, can I say this? I'm about done. Can I just remind our church where the mahon is for music in our church? We have no problems with music in our church. But let me just remind you where the mahon is. In our church, we do not allow any kind of showing off at all in our music. None. No sliding, no rolling. Sliding is when you slide up to the note to show off your ability. Rolling is when you change the melody. We don't do any of that worldly stuff. Amazing grace. Not happening. Not happening. That's the world. That's worldly music. What is the world's music about? Pagpasika. We don't allow it here. Yeah? Shh. Let me show you a verse. We'll be done. Turn to Ezekiel chapter 22, verse 26. Unsang kasalbaran sa tanan kadaot nga makita nato sa atong culture. Listen to me. What's the solution to all the destruction we're seeing in our culture? The solution is men of God and fathers making the landmark clear. This is the mohon. We don't cross this line in our church. We don't cross this line in our family. Papa, Daddy, ikaw ang pangulo sa imong pamilya. You decide what videos are watched in your home. You put the mohon. Ikaw! Kung ikaw mo sulod, imong bata magbantay sa video, ikaw mo sulod. Punta mo na. Ambik. Ambik na. Give it in. Dili ka maglanta ni ini. We don't watch these kinds of videos here. That's daddy's job. And mama, support your husband. Ang inahan, support sa mga decisions sa imong bata. Sit still, Michael. What are you doing? Are you in Ezekiel? Did I tell you to go to Ezekiel? Ezekiel chapter 22. Ezekiel chapter 22, verse 26. Ezekiel chapter 22, verse 26. Can I say amen? Amen? For priests have violated my law and have profaned my holy things. Listen to the statement. They have put no difference between the holy and profane, neither have they showed difference between the unclean and the clean, and have hid their eyes from my Sabbaths, and I am profaned among them. Ang iyang mga pari nilapas sa akong balaod, humihugaw sa akong balaan ng mga butang. Sila wala ni butang o kalinginan tali sa balaan o hugaw. Ni sila mipakita o kalinginan tali sa hugaw o sa hinlo. O gitarot nila ilang mga mata gikan sa mga ipakahulay o ako na hugawan diha kanila. Listen me now. My job as your pastor is to show you the difference between the holy and the unholy. That's my job. Here's the line. And your job as a father and as a mother is to do the same thing in your home. Na kaya responsibility at mag-protect sa imong mga anak ikan sa kaugawan ni ining kalibutan. Protect your children. Protect your children. You know, you find out what's on their cell phone. Better yet, take their cell phone. But if you let your children use a gadget, you better know what they're doing with it. And you better make the rules of what they're allowed to do with it. And if they break the rules, you take the gadget. Tonight, I'm just trying to lay out, here's the mohon. Here's the boundary. Everybody needs to see it clearly. That's why Pastor Mike preaches so frank. Because I want you to know where the mohon is. And your children need to know where the mohon is in your family. It's not enough for the pastor to stand for righteousness. Daddy needs to stand for righteousness at home, and mama needs to support him. Watch now, mama. Kung imong anak, mudol nimo, si daddy, dili mo tuon ako, mabantay sa video sa YouTube. Here's what you say. Sakto jud si daddy. Sakto man good. Don't, if you want to destroy your children, you say, oh, it's okay, you can use my phone, you stupid person. Mutaot ka sa imong mga anak. Why'd you say stupid person? Because halfway through the sentence I thought, I shouldn't say stupid woman, that sounds really mean. Support your husband. Why? Bisan masayop siya. Kailangan ka mag-support sa imong bana para sa imong mga anak. For their sake. Mom and daddy need to be together on everything. Mag-support sa usap-usap. And then the mom and daddy need to support the pastor. After Pastor Mike stands up and preaches something that you, si Pastor Mike magwali, huwag imong mga anak, kabalong nga maigo ka. Maulap yun na, di ba? Pagkaulaw. Imong mga anak, kabalong nga maigo ka sa mensahe ni Pastor Mike. Let me tell you what you do when you go home. You get home and you say, sakto yun ang mensahe ni Pastor Mike karon, kinahanglan mi maghimo sa mga adjustments sa atong pamilya. O kinahanglan ta maghimo sa adjustments sa atong pamilya. You want kids that grow up and serve God? That's how you do it. Make sure they know where the mohon is. Stand with the pastor. Stand with your husband. Stand with your wife. Let's raise our children to serve God. On every head bowed, every eye closed.